Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Stratford Public Schools Board of Education Finance Committee Workshop number 3. My name is Amy Wiltsey, Finance Committee Chair, and today is Wednesday, February 15th. Tonight's agenda includes a review of purchased professional services, the review of facilities, property services and utilities, as well as a review of special ed budget, transportation, tuition, and other purchased services. Before we get started this evening, I would like to call on our chair, Ms. Andrea Corcoran.
Good evening, and please pardon my voice. The Stratford Board of Education acknowledges that language was used at our last finance meeting that may have caused some members of our community to feel disrespected. Though this was unintended, we do strive always to show respect to our community through both our actions and our words.
Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda, review of purchased professional services. Ms. Mangini.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see everybody here this evening. We are, as Ms. Wiltsey pointed out, covering these areas of the budget this evening. I will begin walking you through some of the purchased professional service accounts. Then Mr. Ruggiero, our facilities director, will do the review of facilities, property services, and the utilities. Then you'll hear from me again to talk about regular transportation, tuition, and other purchased service accounts. And we will end the evening with Ms. Borges covering the special education budget review. As you know, as we set these workshops up, our intent is to make certain we get through every single account so that we can give you a little bit of an overview and you have the opportunity to ask questions on those areas. And once again this evening, we ask that you just hold your questions. I'll stop after my presentation. In each presentation, we will take a breath and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So in your budget book, this is the summary. We've highlighted the accounts that we will be reviewing, and this is reflective of what you will see in the 300, 400, 500, and 600 sections of your budget book. So we're first going to start with the 300, which is the purchase professional services, which covers all of these areas. The clinical costs will be covered during the special ed review. And in-service and professional development, you may recall that last week that falls under the curriculum budget, and Dr. Gaeta did address those accounts. And then Mr. Ruggiero will talk about plant maintenance contracts that also fall under the facilities budget. So that basically leaves these areas. These last four numbers are what we call internally key codes, and those accounts are throughout the book, so I'll guide you a little bit. I'm going to first just mention the account number 0597, which is the school physician budget, and that's on page 46 of your budget book. And you'll see that that's basically being left level funded for fiscal year 24. And also, I believe on that page is account code number 1130. That's the cost for the athletic trainer, and in 2021, we did go out to bid for that service through the town's purchasing agent. So fiscal year 24 will bring us into year 2 of a 3-year contract. So the increase that you see there is reflective of that bid and the agreement that we subsequently entered. Legal services is shown on page 50 for both. I'm just going to check because I'm not sure if I had this for you. I did. Okay, my apologies. Let's see. Nope. Wasn't sure if I actually had another slide for you that showed what I'm speaking to. But the legal services is shown on page 50. And it is broken down for both special education and regular education. There's a reduction in the SPED legal service line item, a slight one this year of $20,000, and that's based on the history over the last few years. As you may recall, when I arrived here, we weren't separating special ed legal costs from regular ed. And the main reason we determined it was best practice to do that is because when we do our state report at the end of the year, we are asked to report all costs associated with special education services, including legal fees. So that was the main reason. And now, of course, by doing it since fiscal year 21, we do have some history that we can look at to see what our costs have been. The regular education side of the legal service, which is also administrative legal services, is level funded this year. There will be 2 union contracts that we will be negotiating in fiscal year 24. It's both the nurses and the CIAs, which typically take a little bit less time than the larger union negotiations. So we do feel that the dollar amount will be adequate for the year. And 0757 is purchase professional services. And this account covers funding for our BOE meeting tapings, as well as our food service consultant. And as you may recall, last year you did add funding in there for the superintendent designated professional services. So you do actually see a slight reduction in that amount for next year. I think I've covered everything on these accounts, so I'm going to pause here and I'm happy to answer any questions you might want to ask.
Mr. David?
Great. Hi, Pam. I'm looking at page 43 on legal services, and I see a reduction. You said you're keeping things level funded, but I see a reduction here.
The reduction in the line item for special education is $20,000, and that's based on history. But, so it went from $120,000 this year to 100, and then the administrative regular ed side was $120,000, and we level funded it at $120,000.
So if you can go to page, go back to your presentation on legal services here, though, I'm seeing it.
This is, yeah.
20,000 for special ed.
There, okay.
5,000.
I see where you, all right, I see where you, okay, fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other
43 and 50 at the same time.
That's okay.
Mrs. Vidal?
That's a lot of info.
Just a quick question about the legal services. Do we have a retainer agreement with the attorney that we use, or do we pay by the hour?
We pay by the hour.
Ms. Mangini, I have a question also regarding comparison and expenditures from 2021 and 21-22. Can you just give an example as to why there would be a $40,000 increase in legal services in a year? What types of...
For the actuals, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'm going to grab my book. Very visual.
It's page 43.
Thanks. And thank you to my secretary, Susan Hughes, for making certain we numbered the pages this year. It sure does make life easier. Okay, the 25 from fiscal year 21 to 22.
Yeah, page 50, the first 2 columns there. There's an increase of $56,000, and it's just a huge jump, so I was curious what examples might be given.
I would have to check to see what our actuals were, but there's a couple of things that could play into that. First of all, in fiscal year 21, we had a hybrid schedule for the most part for school. So we very much had different types of things going on, but it could also be a result of maybe fewer contracts being negotiated that year. And honestly, with legal fees, we really never know when we're going to have to get involved with our attorney for advice and guidance, so it could be that as well. But I'm happy to take a look back, and if there's anything that really jumps out at me, I'll share it with the board. Thank you, Finance Committee.
Any other questions with regard to purchase professional services? Okay.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ruggiero.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight we'll be looking at the facilities of paper towels and stuff like that we all need. So here are line items: extermination, fire extinguishers, all things that we have in the schools that we have, some stuff we have contracts for. If you look down at the energy conservation and professional services, you'll see a $53,000 savings was our lighting contracts that we had. So now those are all paid for, and those were schools that we put LED lighting in for money savings. So now that those are closed out, we'll show the 53,000 savings. We still have one more to go, which will be up in...
Rich, I was just gonna say, it's page 132.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay.
I didn't put the pages down
That's okay.
on my... It should go after, all that after that, in a row.
Keeping us on our toes.
Yeah, there you go. Other than that, most of our stuff is pretty standard. Not much changes year to year. We're still buying the same amount of stuff, and we're still looking to purchase stuff that goes, chairs, furniture, stuff like that. Again, here, same stuff. We're custodial supplies. You'll see custodial supplies, prices for custodial supplies have gone up. A lot of stuff is still hard to get. So when we do find it, we tend to want to purchase a little extra.
Like we do too.
Yeah, it's just, it's a little bit crazy with all the product. And we do use other vendors, several vendors that we'll buy from, because we just can't depend on one all the time. And utilities. So electricity, we're locked in, and I think we all discussed this, we're locked in at 7 cents till November of this year. Our water, not much of an increase at all in water. Our gas and heat is, everything that's going on, the price of natural gas is going crazy. We tried to estimate the best we can to where we are. What we will be, maybe, who knows? So these are, and I'm sure Bob will have questions on this, our gas and our electric. That's kind of all the facilities. And that goes, whoop. And that's what I have. Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a few, Mr. Henry.
So I think we had talked about this a little planning. We got a big jump in electricity. Obviously, rates are going up. Most of our schools have solar panels.
So tomorrow, because I knew you were going to bring this up, tomorrow Pam and I actually have a meeting with the solar company to discuss what our savings. I do have a readout of what they gave us, but we need clarification on all the numbers. So Pam and I will have a meeting tomorrow, and any information we'll be able to get to you.
And were our solar panels leased or purchased?
They're actually leased from what I was told. So the solar now is all through the town. The town actually hires the company, Con Ed, to do all the install and the maintenance on it and everything else. That now goes through the town. It used to come through the Board of Ed when DPS was doing it, but we don't use them anymore. So now everything goes through the town.
And then just based on our gas heat, I was from all of our facilities are heated by gas, no electric?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, everything is gas, no more oil.
The
Tanks
high
are
school is
gone.
electric though, correct?
Well, so, yeah, let me back up. Stratford High, state of the art, it's all run by electric. So you'll see an increase in electric at Stratford High. Everything is run on electric. There's no gas there.
Was there a reason for that, or was it?
That was how the contractors built it in when they designed it to be a high efficiency building.
So it was supposed to be
Correct.
more efficient with
Correct.
the electric, yeah? I mean, electric is not what it used to be, so.
Agreed.
Okay, that was it.
Mrs. Lynch, what you gonna do?
On page 133, the last entry is swimming pool supplies.
So,
Please tell me if I'm wrong. Didn't we, and I know this is when Mrs. Rodeo worked very hard on this, finally have the pool taken over half of the time by, isn't the town paying for some of that? Could you
They
explain that to me?
do. So the town does pay for part of it. They pay for part of the electric. Most of the pool supplies, which don't amount to a lot, we pretty much pick up the cost to it. So the town is picking up costs to run, heat the water, run all the machinery that keeps everything up to par.
So there still is a partnership with the
There
town?
is,
and-
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, the gap, we'll start with which rates will we start with? The electric rate. So it's at 7 cents till November of '23. And do we know what rate it goes to? Or
I
is that-
don't, because again, all the rates are now purchased through the town.
Okay.
So they'll figure out what's gonna be the best price at whenever they go.
And I guess through Pam, I think it'd be a fair question to ask Mr. Timiak over the town, just to give us a number to plug in there, so.
I am in communication with Phil Ryan, Chris, and Dawn, and we have been looking at the market and whether or not we should try to lock in, and it fluctuates. Right now, the town pretty much has decided to continue monitoring it and maybe take a look sometime in March or April. So we've talked about it, and based on, don't forget, we do use DBS as our energy consultant to guide us on these utility projections. And they do know the market as well. So between what we received from the town and the information from DBS, that's how we came up with these.
And to dovetail on our question, on the gas rates today, do we have a locked-in rate today? So there's we don't know next year, we have a Carnac going on and just kind of.
It's a little more challenging with natural gas. I've reached out to a number of my colleagues in other districts, and they're all finding the same challenges with locking into natural gas, and they're also finding that it's really not necessarily saving them money in the long run. So we're monitoring that, and we continue to. And again, I have been trying to work very closely with the town purchasing agent.
And okay, just got one last one. So you mentioned we're not using DBS, and you said
We're not using them the way we
Right.
used to for
Okay,
that
okay,
project.
okay.
Yes,
Right.
that did sound contradictory.
DBS used to lock in the prices.
Right, they
for
used
the
to lock in, so we're using the town's
Correct.
stuff, but we're still talking to DBS.
As far as numbers.
As numbers,
Right.
okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Mrs. Cupie had her hand up, and then Mrs. Goodell.
Okay.
Oh, so two things. One, just before we forget, Mrs. Lynn's question about the swimming pool supplies. Can you give us an explanation behind the proposed increase?
So.
And you confirm that the town is picking up part of the tab, but I assume that's not included here. What's here, this 15,000 is our portion of the total?
Right, so increase in pool filters. We just had one die on us. I can tell you right now, they're like $7,000 to $8,000 just for a cleaner that self-propels through the pool. We used to use a certain gas to filter into the system. We no longer can get the gas from the company here in Stratford any longer. So now there's a different system that we had to put on, and it wasn't a large cost, but there's other products that we're using now to keep the pool clean.
Okay. And then my second question is around, on page 132, I believe this is flood, right? The flood building,
Yeah,
where it says
yeah.
cleaning contract. I didn't see that listed
So-
for any other school. Can you
No,
give us a?
so Flood, since the day it opened,
Mhm.
had an outsourced company doing the cleaning at night. We have a full-time custodian during the day, but at night we have a cleaning company. We had gone out to bid last year. The company that was in there did not bid on the new contract for a new contract, so now we have a whole other company that is in there cleaning. They have always, and believe it or not, it's a savings on our side to have the outsourced company versus having that many custodians cleaning at night.
So the $24,000 increase,
So that was based on, again, when we went out to bid, this company, since the original company did not
That's the
bid
best
for
we
it,
could get.
he was the best, they were the best price.
Okay.
And they're actually great as cleaners.
okay, and if you don't mind, just one general question. We're not currently doing, I know during COVID, you know, we increased the level of like the way we clean and, you know, sanitize, et cetera. All of that have been normalized now, right? Like, are we back to normal levels and how is that impacting?
Right, so again, you know, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I depend on Kim Velasquez to guide us on what needs to be done. Do the guys still clean? They do. Do they clean more than they did prior to COVID? Yes, they do. And we purchase enough product that I can, you know, attest to that. However, when Kim tells me what needs to get done in the school, we do.
But those kinds of increases would be coming from our grant, our COVID funding, right? Not necessarily here, I would think.
Well, so the increase is, I'm still purchasing cleaning supplies, not through the grant. I'm still, you know, getting my cleaning supplies through the vendors that we purchase for all the time, which was the same product. Hand sanitizer we got through the state. We had monies for that. We had certain monies for funding special cleaning that we had brought people in to do a lot of cleaning in the schools that we're not doing right now. If Kim says to me, hey, next week we got to start, we have to up the cleaning and we need to get this kind of stuff done. We're not at that right now. We're back to almost the way it was prior to COVID, but the guys are still doing, the team is still cleaning the schools as much as they can.
But extra cleaning and extra supply, didn't we allocate a certain amount of the COVID funds for those increased levels of more hours to clean, more supplies to clean? Like we had earmarked a portion of our budget for that. So where are we with it?
Two things. One is the increase in facilities budget for supplies is reflective of increase in costs.
Got it. Okay.
And of course, Stratford High School's a larger
Right.
building than it perhaps was a couple of
Makes
years
sense.
ago. So that's the increase there. With regard to those supplies that are above and beyond our normal cleaning, and that was a challenge really to figure out what we were expensing to ESSER. And initially it was very simple, right? We were doing really above and beyond. We were trying to keep a lot of supplies in-house in the schools. But a lot of that funding that we set aside in ESSER, you're absolutely right, it was for the extra time and hours that custodians were cleaning. I think we are, as Rich pointed out, pretty much back to normal. I think we have heightened our expectations of how we are cleaning and what needs to be cleaned. But if we do find that there's something we need that's above and beyond as a cleaning fluid or supply, or if we do need more hand sanitizer, or we do need more wipes, then we will use the ESSER funds for those, because we do have still some funding in those buckets remaining.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Duff?
I'm going to jump back a minute
Go ahead.
here to the electric and the gas prices. Are those the difference numbers, the increases, do they account for an increase in costs?
No, because, well, they do, but again, those are numbers that we get from DBS on their estimations of what we should be, right?
Okay.
They take the last 2 years of what we spent and then come up with the numbers that they do, that we have right now.
So
Again,
that's probably based on 7?
No, it's not based on usage. It's based
Right.
on usage plus, I should say. It's not based solely on
Yeah.
usage. It's based on usage plus the anticipated increase in costs.
Okay.
In speaking with Eric, and I know Rich, you did as well as my office, and we did confirm that particularly with the natural gas, from what he is seeing, he's concerned, and this is what he is recommending.
Okay. And just one more. There's a line, system number 1060, energy conservation professional services.
Right, so this, I spoke to this before.
Okay.
So we had schools that we brought lighting in for, every now and then, the electric company runs these savings. So we convert from regular lights to LED lights.
Okay.
So when we have a contract, we pay X amount of dollars every year, so the contracts are up, and that's what that saving, you see the 54,000, that's what that is. So we closed out those contracts, and next year we'll close out the last one that we have, because this now falls under the town.
Okay.
They'll be taking care of that going forward.
Great, thank you.
Really quickly before I forget mine, Mr. David, I was going to ask how frequently we do energy efficiency audits of our buildings. How long is that contract?
Well, again, when we're with DBS, they do not as much as they used to for us. So we can't use them except for estimating costs here.
Okay.
That kind of stuff is going to end up going through the town.
Okay.
And again, now, so we have the solar coming on all the schools. We'll have those figures of what our savings are based on 25 years and what the costs are and what our monies will get back on a quarterly basis. I should have all that information after our meeting tomorrow. We were hoping to have it done before, they have the meeting before tonight, but they couldn't do it.
And also on page 136, looking through all the water costs, we've got 0954 admin. Why, is there any detail or story behind why that's so much greater than all the others?
I'll address that one, Rich, because I had the same question when I arrived here. That includes the sewer fees that we pay the town for the district.
Okay.
And we're still trying to get a clarification on that cost, but it looks like it's going to be pretty much level funded.
Thank you. Mr. David?
Yeah, so the question is, and through Pam and Rich, on the electric, water, and gas, all three, are we bearing 100% of the cost of all of that, or are we sharing any of that with the town of Stratford?
No, we pay for all of our own utilities.
No, that's why I just wanted to clarify that.
But
'Cause I know we do some shared cost in certain.
We do that only for the flood pool, as Ms. Berdia recalls. That was the agreement, and when I first arrived here, we worked with DBS to get another meter installed at flood so that we could estimate or know what that cost was, and we do adjusting entries each month between the town and the Board of Ed for 50% of that cost.
But the water.
Everything else we
Okay,
pay for.
just one.
Yep.
Thank you.
Question?
Oh, did you?
Go ahead.
Okay. How often do we have outside groups, organizations using our facilities? Like how?
You know, I don't have a list. I would have to get that through the rec department of who comes in to use it, because most of anything that comes in outside of the schools, students themselves, goes through the rec department. I don't have that number for you right now, but I can get that from Amy.
So I assume they're being charged.
They
So
are.
we don't have any record of how much people are charged to use our facilities, and
Again.
also are they providing their own, supervision, or are we still having to provide someone to supervise the building while it's being used and paying for that?
So we always do have a custodian open the school to let everyone in. And these are weekend events. If it's a nighttime event, like a Thursday night basketball game at Worcester, the nighttime custodians are there, they're covering it. They don't need to stand
So
there
it's
and
not
watch the
an
game.
extra, okay.
Right, but if it's a weekend, I have to bring in a custodian, open the school, make sure everything is operating correctly. Again, costs, I don't know what the rec department charges everyone to use the facilities. That would have to come from Amy at the rec
But do you
department.
know if we're billing for those hours at least?
Well, of course,
Like,
I'm only getting billed for my guy to be there.
I meant to the rec department then. If we have to bring someone in, you said on the weekends.
Yeah,
to
and they pay
open
for
it up.
that.
They do pay for that. That's what I
They
was
pay for that. Again, if it's during the night, on a weeknight, our guys are there working.
Already.
They're already there, so there is no charge.
We do have a process in place
Yeah.
that we do provide them with a list of the overtime we've paid our custodians for those events that are outside of the school day that they are charging groups for. And the town then handles all that billing, but we do get our funding back for that overtime.
Hands raising.
Mr. Henry was next, and then Ms. Amy.
So just following up on the water conversation, the number of schools, 3 or 4 particularly, had huge jumps in their water usage. Is there a reason for that?
So we did have an issue, you're probably looking at an elementary.
3 of them.
Right, so we did have an issue with water, we've had several, because as you know, most of our bathrooms are all gang bathrooms. We did have, and not knowing to us until the bill came out, but then the town picked up and found out that we had a problem with leakage. So water was running 24 hours a day. It wasn't until we got the bill and somebody, they come to me and they're like, what's this huge increase? So I get the town in there, because that used to happen several times with irrigation systems that we don't know.
Worcester.
It's running, right? At Worcester. And stuff like that. And it happens every now and then, and we don't pick it up until I get the bill. And then the town went in and found out what the problem. But that same problem also happened at Honey Spot. We had a huge leak there, but water main broke when they were digging out the oil tanks. That kind of stuff. That's where a lot of that water use, especially at one of the middle elementaries in particular.
Looks like Nichols had the biggest percentage.
Nichols, they did, yeah, and that was a couple of the gang bathrooms that were running 24/7 until we picked it up in the bill.
And then jumping back to the maintenance plan services and equipment service, I know you might already answer this, but you had said that obviously supplies are more expensive. They're both, jumping up a good chunk. Is that solely because of the supplies, or because we're making some extra efforts to stay on top of our maintenance?
No, it's actually, believe it or not, the cost of certain materials that we purchase are just through the roof. Gloves. We go through a lot of, latex gloves, paper towels, and toilet paper. Trying to get that, it's impossible. So when I do have it, and they say, hey, I have 50 cases or 150 cases, I'm going to buy it because there's no telling when I'm going to be able to get it again.
Okay.
And we're still at that. It hasn't really stopped yet.
Yeah, I see a lot of that in my business.
Yeah.
Some stuff goes down, but some stuff.
Last year CDX was $60 a sheet, and I just bought some for 30. So
30.
or 23 rather.
13 on Home Depot. And then just the last question is, with these added expenses and costs, yeah, I know Ms. Mangini, you had said there's still some money in the ESSER buckets. Why aren't we expensing more of our cleaning supplies into the ESSER bucket?
Because the ESSER bucket should be used for COVID-related expenses. So when they were the cleaning supplies that were over and above, the way the state explained it to us is that they're going to, when they do their audits, and they have every intention of doing audits of all these ESSER grants, they're going to look back at our budgets to see what we averaged for our supplies, and they would anticipate or expect to see our ESSER expenses being over and above, and that our actuals from our budget should pretty much be what they've always been. So that's